Hello again. This one's going to be a little bit different because it's not rolling stock. We're just trying to get rid of some of the projects that have been on my bench for so long I can't remember. So this one is going to complement the last couple of videos that I've done. It's going to be something to theoretically put in them. The once was common brute. So I've bought several of these from Shire Scenes over the years. Never actually managed to make any, but today's the day. I've also bought a new tool, the bending tool, which cost me an arm and a leg, but I thought this is the ideal project to give it a start out. So we're giving all the brass a bit of a polish with some sandpaper. Let's start cutting it out and bending it up and see how we go. So it's the base and the wheels, the upper frame, and then a few bits and pieces like the tow hook. And so I'm going to start by bending up the little pieces and putting them strategically to one side so I can either lose them or they can ping across the room and bury themselves in the carpet for later. So this first part that we're bending up is the tow hook, and it's incredibly small. The instructions on this one are pretty much similar to the other couple that I've done just recently, as in quite scant, which makes it more of a puzzle, which doesn't really matter. It's more entertaining like that sometimes. Because my metalworking, brasswork skills aren't up to as good as they should be, this is an ideal project just to get them honed in, because the next project, or the next but one maybe, is going to be quite intense with the brasswork. And that piece that we just bent up is supposed to look like this on the instruction sheet. That's upside down, not anymore. And next is like a box-like construction that sits on the end, which houses the brake release and mechanism for the towing system. And this is all pretty much real time as well, so it takes literally a couple of minutes to fold up all the parts for one brute. And because all the parts are so small on this project, there's an awful lot of fingers and thumbs in the videos. And apparently my sister-in-law has been watching one of them and has decided to tell me to get a manicure. And my response: not a hope in hell. And if you saw my last video, I did mention another special van that was in the video that's coming up now in the corner. It's the second van in this formation, and it's 86000, which was the prototype Gov, which is slightly different to all the others because it's only got 2 doors instead of 3. That was another conversion that I did. It's possible. I've done 2 of them so far, so it's possible that I'm not going to do another one for a video. Anyway, back to these brutes. Let's finish folding them up before we go off to paint. Yeah, and that shouldn't be paint. That should be heating up the soldering iron, ready for soldering them together. I did consider gluing them, but because they all seem to be so springing apart, I decided to go for soldering, which I'm not the best at, and I always need a lot of cleaning up afterwards. But, you know. So like I say, I've bought several packets of these things. They come in packets of 3, which is quite odd, or rude, if you're that way. If you're of a certain generation, you'll find that quite amusing. Anyway, there they all are in the box, ready to get soldered. And this was another case of having to have asbestos fingers, because even with that small iron tip, the brute itself got really hot, and it was a case of just holding it together long enough for the solder to solidify and your fingers to start melting at the same time. To put the base on, I did contemplate again gluing, but since I had the iron out, I thought I'd just whack some heat in, change the bit, and then just melt it onto the solder in between. So it didn't take too long to get them all done, all 15 soldered up. It's actually taken me longer to produce this video than it did to actually complete the model build. And 15 isn't that many. They'll just get lost on the railway, and it'll take more like 150 to get anywhere to make them look sort of collectively very good. Anyway, so like I say, because my soldering isn't super great, I did have to do quite a lot of cleanup. And after that, it was into a bath of hot water and just a bit of fairy liquid, just to keep all the grease and dust off. So once they were dry, it was then off to the paint booth, and it was definitely a case of needing primer. Now, I tend to use Halford's just generic primer because I get more success with that on brass than what I do with any of the etched primers. Some of you may disagree, but this is the way that I prefer to do it. And Halford's primer is considerably cheaper as well, so that's another reason. Anyway, so back to the booth. Now that they're all primed up, and it's unfortunately, Jim, more blue paint. You must realise I buy it in bulk. Anyway, so they all of them took 2 coats. First a nice sort of base coat, and then a top coat just to deepen the colour. So my memories of these things were that they were quite bashed up and dirty, and the base used to have quite a lot of faded and worn paint in the middle. So that's why I just painted round the edge, and hopefully that showed up in the last little bit, so you get like a faded grey undercoat coming through. Once the details are painted, like the wheels, I then give it a quick wash, and that brought out, accentuated that sort of fadedness and grime around the edges too. So these were a little bit different, but still entertaining, and seemed to turned out rather well. I decided then to fill them up with model scene accessories like the parcels and the mail bags, and I also got sacks of coal as well. Obviously I painted them to make them look not like sacks of coal. I painted all the other bits and pieces as well, just to take the plastic look off them. And I did try and put the canvas plastic sheet around the edge as well, but I couldn't quite get it to look right, so in the end I left it off, and I've got ideas to how to do it. It didn't quite work out how I wanted it to work out, so I will do an update on this one in the near future when I've sorted that out. Anyway, let's have a look at them on the railway. There they are, the mailbag version. Obviously second class mail, because Postman Pat seems to have gone for a cup of tea. That's the proper use for brutes, train spotters. And then there's Bert loading the parcels on. And in the final scene we'll see the brutes loaded onto a Marks and Spencer's special, calling it Bishop Stortford, Peterborough and Martin, Lincolnshire. That's a quality joke that only 3 or 4 people are going to get. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks.